Please subscribe to this channel and support us so we can post new sci-fi stories every day. Your support keeps us going. Earth hung silent in the void, its once blue oceans now murky gray beneath alien atmospheric processes. Ancient human cities lay in ruins, their skeletal remains serving as monuments to a species the galaxy believed extinct. For 3 centuries, the Zephyrian Empire had ruled from humanity's cradle, their crystalline spires piercing the polluted sky like infected needles. To them, humans were nothing more than primitive legends, myths whispered by the conquered races about bipedal savages who once crawled from these worthless rocks. High Counselor Vextar stood before the great observation deck, his 6 arms folded in satisfaction as he gazed upon their greatest trophy. Let the lesser species dream of human ghosts, he chittered to his subordinates. We are the masters now. We have always been the masters. The alien council chamber erupted in harmonious clicks and whistles of agreement, their confidence absolute. After all, what could pose a threat to an empire that spanned 1,000 star systems? But deep in the outer rim, long-range sensors began detecting something impossible. Massive energy signatures moving through hyperspace, too large to be asteroids, too organized to be natural phenomena. Junior Officer Kilinara trembled as she reported the readings to her superiors, only to be dismissed as a fear-mongering fool. Sensor ghosts, they called it. Equipment malfunction. But the signatures kept growing stronger, kept moving closer to the Sol system. Then the sky tore open. The first human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a metallic tsunami, their ships stretching across the starfield in perfect formation. Each vessel bore the scars of countless battles, their hulls etched with symbols that made the aliens' blood run cold, the ancient marks of Earth, of humanity, of a species that refused to die. The lead ship, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed anything in the Zephyrian fleet, broadcast a single message across all frequencies. This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Sovereignty. We have come home. Panic seized the alien defenders as they scrambled to deploy their defensive fleets. How could this be possible? Humans were extinct, wiped out by their own wars centuries ago. The Zephyrian databases contained no records of human ships, no intelligence about off-world colonies. Yet here they were, their technology clearly superior, their numbers overwhelming. The aliens' most advanced warships looked like toys beside these leviathans of steel and fury. The battle began before the aliens could properly organize. Human drop pods screamed through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, each one carrying soldiers encased in powered exoskeletons that gleamed with an otherworldly energy. These were not the soft, vulnerable humans of ancient history. These beings moved with predatory grace, their enhanced bodies adapted for war across a dozen different worlds. Alien plasma weapons that could melt through reinforced titanium simply bounced off human armor. Energy shields that had protected Zephyrian forces for centuries crumbled under the fury of human particle beams. A single human marine, his face hidden behind a featureless helmet, walked calmly through a barrage of enemy fire and systematically dismantled an entire alien squad with surgical precision. The defenders watched in horror as their most elite warriors fell like wheat before the scythe. High Counselor Vextar stumbled into the command center, his usual arrogance replaced by naked terror. Deploy the orbital bombardment platforms, he shrieked. Blast the entire continent if you must. The order went out, and massive energy cannons began charging in orbit, preparing to turn Earth's surface into molten slag. But as the first bombardment began, something unprecedented happened. The humans activated planetary shield generators that hadn't existed when they left Earth. The night sky blazed with the light of deflected energy beams, the shields holding firm against everything the aliens could throw at them. But that wasn't the worst revelation. As the battle raged, human commanders began broadcasting historical records across every communication channel in the galaxy. The truth spread like wildfire through the network of conquered worlds. Humanity hadn't gone extinct. They had been exiled. 300 years ago, a coalition of alien races had driven humans from Earth, believing them too dangerous to coexist with civilized species. It was meant to be a death sentence, sexile to the void, with nothing but primitive ships and obsolete technology. But humanity had done something the aliens never expected. They had survived. More than that, they had thrived. The broadcasts showed human worlds scattered across distant galaxies, thriving colonies built on planets too harsh for most species to even visit. Death worlds with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, and radiation levels that would kill most aliens in minutes. But humans had adapted, had grown stronger, had forged themselves into something harder than diamond in the furnace of exile. We learned to breathe poison. Admiral Chen's voice echoed across the battlefield. We learned to thrive in the cold between stars. We learned that mercy is a luxury the universe doesn't offer. And we learned that when you cast out monsters, you'd better pray they don't come back. The young Zephyrian officer, Lunara, watched in fascination and terror as human soldiers moved through her people's positions. But something unexpected happened. When civilians cowered in terror, the humans simply walked past them. Children who screamed in fear were gently moved aside, unharmed. These warriors, these living weapons of mass destruction, showed a restraint that her own people rarely displayed. We return not as the species you remember, the human broadcast continued, but as something new, something forged in the crucible of 1,000 hostile worlds. We return not as beggars seeking scraps from your table, but as the apex predators we were always meant to become. The revelation sent shockwaves through every corner of the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humans began intercepting the broadcasts, learning of a race that had supposedly been extinct for centuries. But as the historical record spread, a terrifying pattern emerged. Human exile hadn't been random, it had been systematic, organized, carried out by the very same coalition that now trembled before their return. Planet after planet fell to the human advance, not through brutal conquest, but through surgical precision that spoke of centuries of military evolution. Where alien fleets had needed months to subdue a single world, humans accomplished the same task in hours. Their tactics were flawless, their technology overwhelming, their coordination absolute. The Zephyrian Empire, which had considered itself the pinnacle of galactic civilization, crumbled like a house of cards. Their most fortified worlds surrendered without a shot being fired as word spread of human capabilities. Resistance was not just futile, it was an obsolete concept when faced with this level of superiority. In the ruins of New Geneva, a human child took her first breath of Earth's air in 3 centuries. The atmospheric processes had been shut down, the pollution was clearing, and for the first time since the exile, human feet walked freely on their ancestral soil. The little girl looked up at her father, a veteran of the Outer Rim campaigns, and asked a simple question. "Daddy, are we really home now?" The soldier knelt beside his daughter, his weathered face softening as he gazed across the landscape that his grandparents had been forced to abandon. "Yes, sweetheart, we're home, and this time, nothing will ever drive us away again." But whispers had begun to spread through the surviving alien command structures. Earth was just the beginning. The humans weren't stopping with their homeworld, they were claiming everything. Every system the Exile Coalition had ever controlled was being systematically liberated. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you pushed humanity to the brink of extinction, and they survived to tell the tale. High Counselor Vextar, now a prisoner aboard his own flagship, was forced to witness the final broadcast. Admiral Chen stood before the cameras, her uniform bearing the insignia of a dozen conquered worlds, her eyes holding the cold fire of absolute conviction. To every species that participated in our exile, to every race that thought humanity was weak enough to be discarded, you were right about one thing. The humans you cast out were weak, but we are not those humans anymore. We are their children, tempered by hardship, strengthened by loss, and unified by purpose. We have returned to reclaim what was taken from us, and we will not be satisfied with scraps. The broadcast ended with a simple message that would echo through history. You made us strong. Now live with the consequences. As the human flag rose over the restored capital of Earth for the first time in 3 centuries, children who had only known the cold between stars finally understood what it meant to have a home. But across the galaxy, in 1,000 alien council chambers, military commanders were asking the same desperate question. How do you stop a species that has been forged by exile into the perfect weapon? The answer, spreading like wildfire through their communication networks, was as simple as it was terrifying. You don't. The fall of the Zephyrian Empire was just the beginning. Within months, the hegemony of Kethfer militant species that had controlled the eastern spiral arm for 2 millennia found their borders under assault. Their bioships, once the terror of 100 worlds, withered like diseased tissue under human neural disruptors. The proud warrior caste of Kethfer, who had never known defeat, fell to their knees as human forces swept through their territory with mechanical precision. Please, begged War Chieftain Greshtok, his ceremonial armor cracked and bloodied. We were not part of the exile. We had nothing to do with driving your species from Earth. The human commander, General Martinez, studied the alien leader with eyes that had seen too much death across too many worlds. You're right. You weren't part of the exile. She paused, letting hope flicker in the alien's compound eyes. But you conquered 17 human colony ships that tried to settle in your territory. You hunted our refugees for sport. You sold human prisoners to the slave markets of Proxima Station. The war chieftain's hope died as quickly as it had been born. The humans had brought receipts. They had brought records. They had brought 3 centuries of carefully documented grievances. And they had brought the means to collect on every single one. Across the Andromeda communication network, emergency sessions were being called in every major governmental body. The Peaceful Collective of Zolthera, the Democratic Federation of Centauri, the corporate states of the outer rim, all of them, watching the same horrifying pattern repeat across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just conquering territories. They were methodically dismantling every power structure that had benefited from their absence. But perhaps the most terrifying discovery came from the archives of New Geneva. As human archaeologists sifted through the ruins of their ancestral home, they uncovered something that made even their hardened commanders pause in shock. The exile hadn't been a response to human aggression or primitive violence. It had been premeditated genocide disguised as mercy. They knew, whispered Dr. Sarah Okafor, her voice barely audible in the restored Earth Defense Council chambers. The Coalition knew about our expansion plans, our colony ships, our dreams of spreading across the stars. They didn't exile us because we were dangerous. They exiled us because we were competition. The recordings were damning. Secret communications between the original Exile Coalition, discussing humanity as an infestation to be contained, and a species too ambitious for the galaxy's good. They had planned to wait a few decades after the exile, then quietly exterminate whatever scattered human settlements might have survived in the void. They had never expected humanity to not only survive, but to come back stronger than any species in galactic history. Admiral Chen stood before the restored United Nations Assembly, her uniform now bearing the insignia of Supreme Fleet Commander of the Terran Sovereignty. Behind her, holographic displays showed the current state of human expansion, a red wave spreading across the galaxy map like spilled blood. 43 star systems liberated in 6 months. Not conquered, liberated. The exile was not our punishment, she declared to the gathered representatives of 12 different human colony worlds. It was our graduation ceremony. They thought they were sentencing us to death in the void. Instead, they sent us to school, the most brutal, unforgiving school in the universe. And we graduated with highest honors. The assembled delegates, men and women whose families had survived the ice moons of Kepler 442, the radiation storms of Wolf 359, the crushing gravity of Proxima Centauri, nodded with grim understanding. Every world had taught them something new about survival. Every hostile environment had stripped away another layer of weakness. Every loss had forged them into something harder. On the bridge of the dreadnought Unconquerable, Lieutenant Commander James Park monitored the approach to the Vegan Trade Confederation's capital system. The vegans had been smart. They'd offered immediate surrender the moment human fleets entered their territory. No resistance, no bloodshed, just a simple acknowledgement of humanity's right to reclaim what was theirs. Admiral Park reported, "The vegan delegates are requesting an audience. They're offering full reparations for their role in supporting the Exile Coalition." Admiral Chun's expression didn't change. "Tell them we'll consider their offer. After we finish collecting from the others." The message was clear. Humanity would accept surrender, but only after everyone who had wronged them understood the true cost of their actions. The galaxy was learning a harsh lesson about the difference between extinct and exiled, between weak and merely unprepared. In the depths of space, construction yards that had been building human warships for 3 centuries continued their endless production. Ships that dwarfed the old Earth vessels, weapons that made alien technology look like stone knives, and most importantly, humans who had been raised from birth to be the inheritors of a galaxy that had tried to deny them their birthright. The last message to emerge from the human networks before they sealed their communications from alien interception was simple and final. "We are coming home. All of it, every star our ancestors dreamed of reaching, every world they planned to settle, every future they dared to imagine. We are the children of exile, the heirs of abandonment, and we are finally strong enough to take back everything that was stolen from us. The galaxy held its breath and waited for humanity to finish coming home. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to this channel and support us so we can post new videos every day. Your support means the world.